All right, hello everyone. This is Mr. Patel, and we're going to go through experimental variables. And this was in your packet on page 4 and 5. Okay, so we're going to first go through independent variable. That's what the investigator changes or manipulates. Okay, for instance, in your testable question, how much magnesium do radish plants need to grow? Then your independent variable is the concentration or amount of magnesium that you give to the plant. This is the cause in the experiment. You can only have one independent variable, okay, in an experiment, okay, because we don't want many things changing all at once, because then we don't know what it is that caused our results to change. Okay, so the dependent variable is what you measure in the experiment, okay? It's what is observed or the data collected in the experiment. This would be the effect. Experiments can have more than one dependent variable because the experiment can have many different effects. We typically focus on one of the effects. In the radish experiment, you might measure the length of the leaves. Okay? Controlled or constant variables. Constant variables are any condition in the experiment. So you must keep these conditions for constant for all tested items. Okay? Examples of constants in the radish experiment would be light exposure, humidity, pH of the solution, and amount of water. Okay, because any of those things can change our data, so we want to keep all of those the same. Okay? I'm going to start reading from here. You also need to have a group to which you can compare your results to. This is the control group. Okay? The control group does not receive the experimental factor. In the radish example, the radish plants would all be exposed to the same constants, except they would not need to be treated with magnesium. This allows us to see the results of the experimental variable. Okay? And over here for our directions, it says underline and label the independent variable. So underline and then label it IV. Okay? Dependent variable, circle and label it DV. Okay? And identify two control variables and identify the control group. Okay? We'll get started. So how much magnesium do radish plants need to grow? The hypothesis. If radish plants are given different amounts of magnesium and their levels are measured for growth, then the plant given the most magnesium will grow longer leaves compared to the plant with less or no magnesium. Okay, in the example, identify two controlled constant variables, one type of plant, two initial size of plant, and the control group they chose was plant given no magnesium. Okay? But let's talk about the independent and the dependent variable. Okay, so if radish plants are given different amounts of magnesium, so the experimenter is giving different amounts of magnesium. Okay, so that would be our IV. Okay, and then in blue, we'll do their leaves are measured for growth. Okay, so that's what we're measuring. Okay, for growth. Okay, then the plant given the most magnesium will grow longer. That's the hypothesis. Okay, so let me just label this DV. Okay, and they indicated our two controlled constants here. Okay. These are things that we want to keep the same so they don't change up our data, okay, and affect it. Okay, the control group is the plant given no magnesium. Okay, right there. Okay, so try, now it's your turn to try identify the variables and control group for each example. So a student wants to study the effect of the amount of sunlight on plant growth. Okay, let's start with IV. Okay, so the student wants to study the effect of amount of sunlight. Okay, ooh, whoops, let me do that in red. Okay. So amount of sunlight, that's what we're going to be changing, or the student. So we're going to call that the IV. And what he or she is measuring is plant growth, so that's DV. Okay. Identify two controlled or constant variables. Okay, so what are some things that we would want to keep constant? Some of those things might be type of soil. Okay, we don't want that affecting any of our data. Okay. Temperature of room. Okay. Okay. There could be a lot more too. You could have amount of water that's given to each of them. Okay. And all sorts of things. I had some students in my class mention the type of vase or pot that it's held in. Okay, that could affect small things like how the water flows into the soil, how much of the roots pick up that water, all these types of things. So these are all types of things that we would want to keep the same. Okay? So, and then lastly, for our control group, you could either do some plant that has some normal amount of sunlight or a plant with no sunlight. Okay, we'll put both of those. Plant with no sunlight or plant with some normal amount of sunlight. Okay. And I put normal in quotations because I don't know what is normal for that particular plant. All right, when it comes to the control group, the main thing is that we have some group to compare our data with. Okay, so some control group. Okay. All right, we'll continue. So for this particular page here, what we have is some more examples. It says a student wants to study the effect of the slope of an incline on the amount of time it takes for a ball to roll down. Okay, so the effect of the slope of an inclined plane. So that's kind of like a ramp. Okay, that's what an inclined plane is. So that's our IV. Okay, so we're going to change the slope. Okay, how steep is it? That's what slope is. On the amount of time it takes a ball to roll down it. Okay, so that is the amount of time it takes for a ball to roll down. Okay, and that will be our dV. Okay, so we'll be measuring the amount of time. So identify two controlled or constant variables. Okay, so a couple of things that we may want to keep the same is the surface of the inclined plane. Surface of inclined plane. Okay. Because we don't want that surface to affect how quickly or slowly the ball is going to take to roll down it. Okay, another thing we have to keep the same could also be the type of ball used. Ball rolled. Okay, we'll put that. Okay. All right, the person rolling it could also be another thing. There's a lot of possibilities for constant variables. More could be like how much wind is there in the room. Okay. So lastly, our control group. Okay. So for the control group, we can choose a normal incline. Okay. So some incline that we choose to roll it against. Okay. And let's see. Okay, we'll move on. So number 3. So a student wants to study the effect of different soil types. Okay, so that's going to be our IV. That's what we're changing. Okay, to the rate of decomposition of garbage. Okay, so rate of decomposition. We'll put that as our dV. Okay. Identify two controlled and constant variables. So some stuff that we may want to keep the same is the temperature. Okay. We may also want to keep the same the type of garbage. Okay. Ooh, whoops. Okay, so some types of garbage may decompose quicker than other types of garbage. Like a banana is going to decompose a lot quicker than a plastic bottle will. So these types of things we would want to keep the same so it doesn't affect our data, and more particularly the rate of decomposition of garbage. Our control group would be the normal type of soil that we'd find in some area. So the soil that before we change it, okay, some base or normal type of soil. Okay, I'm going to put a line here to separate that. Okay, awesome. So that's going to be it for that part. Now we're going to get on to graphs, okay, and looking at this line graph and interpreting some of the things that it's telling us. So first thing it says, it doesn't give us a title, but what it is it seems like we have some plant that's growing with different amounts of sunlight, shown by this key here. Okay, and then it shows us how high it did it grow to, and the amount of days it took for that to happen. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. On A, it says on day 7. Okay, so I'm going to go straight to day 7. Okay, the plants kept in the sun for 3 hours were how tall? Okay, to figure out which line am I looking for, I'm going to have to look at this key right here. Okay, and now it specifically wants us to look at the one with 3 hours, so that's going to be this one here. Okay, so the one with kind of like a star on it, like that one there. Okay, so we're looking at this line here. Okay? And if I take a look at where that's at on day 7, it is right here. Okay, and if I take a look to the left here, that tells me that it is 20 millimeters tall. Okay, then I can go ahead and look for our next one now. Okay, and I'll do that in blue again. So on day 7, the plant's kept in the sun for 6 hours. We're how tall? Okay, so we're still looking at the key, but we're looking at this one here, 6 hours. Okay, this time we have a triangle, so we're actually looking at this line right here. Okay, so let's see. If I'm looking for day 7, I'm going to find day 7. I'm going to go all the way up, and I'm seeing that it is at right about that point there. Okay, and if I look on my left side here, on this side right here, I'm trying to figure out where this line goes to, and it seems like it's between 60 and 80, so I'm going to say 70 millimeters for that one. Okay, all right, we're going to go on to our next one. On day 10, so I'm going to look at day 10. The plant's kept in the sun for 9 hours. I'm going to look at my key again. This time I'm going to look at 9 hours. Okay, and that one has an X on it. Okay, so what we'll do is we will find the one with an X on it, which is this one here. Okay, and we're going to use that one. So we said day 10 is what we're looking for. I'm going to go all the way up to our point on day 10. That's up there. I'm going to look to my right, and that tells me that it is at 140 millimeters. Okay. All right. Now we'll move on to letter D on day 11. Okay, so I'm looking at day 11. The plant growth with 1 hour of sunlight was how tall? Okay, I'm going to look at my key. I'm going to find 1 hour of sunlight, and I find that to be like the diamond. Okay, that's going to be this line right here. Okay, all right. So we'll go ahead and look at day 11. Okay, and our line is right there. That is between 10 and 20. Okay, I'd say it's closer to the 20 than it is 0. So I would say, then I would say it's probably about 17 maybe. Okay, 17 millimeters. Okay. Any answer between 15 to maybe 18, 19 would have made sense to me because we're looking right between that 0 and 20. Okay, but it's closer to 20 than it is like 10, for example. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. We have one last one. It says, based on the graph, the plant grows best with what amount of sunlight? Okay, and what I'm looking for is a plant that's going to grow the highest. So which one is closest to the top here? And it is this one here. Okay, the one with the X attached to it. That looks like it is the one with 9 hours of sunlight. So 9 hours of sunlight is our answer. Okay, all right. And that's going to be it for the independent, dependent variables and also looking at graphs. Okay, thank you.